Ladies and gentlemen, I've been having a problem this week. See, a lot of stuff has happened. Assassin's Creed Odyssey came out. Me and Lewis have put a lot of time into it. There's been rumours of a brand new Switch with new screen technology, whatever that means. There's been all sorts of stuff. It's been a busy week. There was Forza Horizon 4. It's busy and busy. But, see, I have a segment down at the allotments where I grow herbs and vegetables. And what's been happening this week is somebody has been coming along, taking off the topsoil and just replacing it with compost every night. I have no idea why this has been happening. So amongst a busy week, just like what's been happening with Telltale and The Walking Dead, the plot has thickened. Hello everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Games Up Podcast. My name is Cameron, and it's just me this week. Lewis is in Copenhagen doing Copenhagen-y things. I'm not sure what he's doing there, but I hope he's coping well with it. So yeah, we need to talk about Walking Dead, we need to talk about Telltale. Stuff has gone even further, more stuff has happened, and it sounds good, but actually there's some negative stuff that's been happening as well. And we don't like to focus on the negative, but we don't overly like to focus on the positive either. We like to be realistic about the games industry. So, let's talk generally about The Walking Dead and Telltale. This week, Telltale laid off the last 25 people of a 50-people team that they had working for them as devs, as far as I understand, meaning that this week they are now 25 people of a skeleton crew running the very last of Telltale games. As far as everything is concerned, Telltale is as dead as it can possibly be. There is no coming back, there is no work going on in that place anymore. Telltale is gone. Hopefully those people were treated better than the 250 people they previously laid off, although based on Telltale's track record, probably not, because they're not great to people, are they? But this week, as well as that, Skybound stepped in and said that they would be picking up the opportunity to finish Telltale Games' Walking Dead the final season. There are more details to come. They haven't confirmed much, but that they will be doing it. It's Skybound Games that are publishing it, and they've previously had involvement with The Walking Dead. Skybound, I believe, owns the IP rights to The Walking Dead and license it to Telltale. Because there's been like a bunch of Walking Dead games released. Just the biggest one is Telltale. So, that leads us to think, yay, this is good, The Walking Dead's finishing, right? But there's some ins and outs of it that's a bit murky. So here are the things I want to see when The Walking Dead finishes. Firstly, this is a pie in the sky one, but I want to see it happen nonetheless. I want to see the money that was exchanged here be used in the right way. Now, I don't know what money was exchanged here. I don't know what kind of deal Telltale has or hasn't agreed with Skybound. But the likelihood, I would say, is that they've probably paid a fee for it. Skybound has probably paid a fee to gain the assets back from Telltale. There are some other ways they could go about it. They could say something like, we'll, share the profits with you, so on and so forth. It's probably not the case. Telltale is dead as a dodo. They don't want profits. That would be like me saying to you, oh, I see that you're starving hungry. Well, in 3 months, I might have made a sandwich. Nobody wants that. What they want is the bread and the cheese now. So the likelihood is they've taken a fee for all the assets, for all the storyboards, for all the writing, so on and so forth. This means that Telltale probably, I'm not suggesting they do, this is simply me thinking out loud, probably has some more money in its coffers than it did 2 weeks ago. It would be nice, it would be really nice, in fact, to see Telltale do something good with that. They laid off 250 people with no notice and half an hour to leave their desks and leave a building. The reason they did this was because they were seeking funding, and that funding fell through and they couldn't keep the studio up. But they didn't tell anyone, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I have seen, and this is the case of a class action lawsuit at the minute, so I'll be careful with what I say. They didn't tell anyone that this was likely. They didn't give fair warning. And I imagine if they had given that warning, the people working for Telltale would have started looking elsewhere much more rapidly. Instead, the people working at Telltale were cut off with no notice, half an hour to leave their desks, and they also lost all the benefits of working at Telltale. Their healthcare expired a week after they left with half an hour's notice. That is not good enough. And it would be really nice to see Telltale recognise this and do something for them. I don't know what they could do. It's very clear that they don't have the money to pay severage for all of these people, but it would be good to see them make some gesture. Perhaps they could start a fund for the people who didn't land on their feet. Perhaps they could pay some of the healthcare for the people who didn't land on their feet. Perhaps they can organise more careers fairs like Ubisoft did when this news came out, so that the people who didn't land on their feet are more likely to land on their feet in time. I don't know exactly what they can do, and it seems unlikely they will do it, because I highly doubt that Telltale is suddenly in the business of, setting people up for good careers in the future. But they do, I'd imagine, have more money in their pocket now than they've had in a while, and it would not be nice to see them do something with it that actually sets the industry up for the better, rather than just cutting people loose. Alright, secondly, I want Skybound to treat people better than Telltale did. Alright, this is preachy, it's political, I get that, but go with me on this one. One of the worst things that seems to have come out of the Telltale issue is that people didn't know this was happening. People didn't know that there was a likelihood that this was going to change. They didn't realise that they were at such a risk. And it occurs to me that if there'd just been a bit more transparency within the company, this might not have come as much of a culture shock as it did. And it certainly might not have caught the fans off guard, and I hope it wouldn't have caught the devs off guard. I would like to see Skybound act with a little more respect and a little more transparency than Telltale did. I would also like to see them... It's clear that this is not going to be a long-term thing for these devs. This is a short-term contract, I'd imagine, to finish off 2.5 episodes of an episodic series. This is not months or years to develop a game. This is maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks to push that game out into the world and push what was left of it to do anyway. It's not going to be a long-term thing. But it would be nice to see some of the developers who got laid off given the opportunity to A, come back and finish what they started, and B, gain some employment for the next few weeks so that there may be an opportunity for them to land more on their feet in time. I doubt they're going to get severance from this. I doubt they're going to get this, that, the other from this. I doubt they're going to be treated as they need to be to survive. But this might be an opportunity for them to make back some of the things they lost and do right by an IP that I'm sure a number of them are passionate about. So I'd like to see Skybound act a little more honourably than Telltale did. If all of this comes to fruition, if all of these things happen, then I'd like it to sell well. The gaming industry lost a major player in terms of small, independent, intimate narrative storytelling when Telltale closed down, as Telltale closes down. And times like this are an opportunity for the industry to see that there is a place for these kind of games and experiences. That not every game has to be a game as a service or 70-hour grind fest. Not every game has to be sold with DLC and season passes. Not every game has to be sold with a multiplayer option or an as-a-service ongoing world or whatever it is. Something smaller, something more story-focused, something more personally driven has its place in the gaming industry, and it deserved to reach the level that Telltale did. It's a shame that bad management at the top of Telltale has been the reason that one of the most beloved story-based IPs of the last few years has died a death. That shouldn't happen. Good management and good IPs should go hand in hand so that this kind of thing lives and survives in the industry. I hope if all of this is done with respect, if all of this is done properly, if the devs making it are treated properly, and the devs who are laid off from Telltale are treated with more respect than they are receiving currently, I hope this goes on to be a success, so that the management of Telltale can see the mistake they made, so that the rest of the industry can see the mistake they made by not supporting Telltale further, or not building these kind of experiences themselves, and to some extent, so the player base can continue to support this stuff and get it to higher successes. So to summarise, more respect and money for the devs who lost everything, more respect and transparency for the industry at large from Skybound, who will now go on to produce this, and if all of that falls into place, more respect for the IP from the fanbase in terms of sales, so that perhaps the death of Telltale and The Walking Dead can lead to, I don't know, the phoenix rising of story games, even if it's just on a small scale. that was this week's episode. Thanks very much for joining us. You can catch us on all the socials. That's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and iTunes at Games Upcast. You can like this show whether you're on iTunes or on YouTube, so that we might get out in front of a few more people. If you're on iTunes, you can rate us 5 stars as well. That helps a lot, but you don't have to. It's cool. And also, you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We publish every Monday at 6:30. We might be moving that sometime soon. We need to have a talk about it. Lewis is obviously in Copenhagen, so we can't talk right now. But I've noticed a slight drop-off in things in terms of analytics, so we might change that, but we'll keep you up to date if you are, waiting for the episode at 6:30. Firstly, Jesus, thank you. And secondly, we'll keep you in the loop with any changes we plan to make. But that was the episode. Thanks very much. I'm off to edit this now. See ya. Bye. The game's up.